Hi everyone, Jim with CD Nova again, and today we're looking at the 450iQ series H2S SO2 analyzer and the menu, the operation menu, as I did with the previous video on the NOx analyzer. Very similar layout. The buttons are the same location, the calibration, data and settings, password lock, alarms menu, and favorites for the button screen that you can configure. So this is the 450iQ, and this is configured for H2S. You can also make it read CS. This will change to CS for combined sulfur, just by simply going into the software excuse me, and deselecting the SO2 scrubber. This will change to H2CS instead of H2S. So looking at the calibration menu, we have the Calibrate Background, Calibrate Span Coefficient, Advanced Cal, and Zero Span Schedule. Calibrate Background is just simply the offset coefficient, the background coefficient. When you're trying to do a zero adjust on the analyzer, so you'll be sampling zero air, get the reading as close to zero as you can. And when you've achieved that, you just simply go into H2S background and simply hit calibrate, and it will adjust the background coefficient and set this to 0. So you have target H2S concentration 0, current concentration 0.4, 0.4, it matches. Current background 8.4, so when somebody adjusted it recently, it was an 8.4 reading to bring it to 0. Calculated H2S background 8.8, and you would just simply hit calibrate to adjust that to 0. Go back, and you also have an SO2 background adjust as well. So this analyzer can also read SO2, and you can see that it's actually reading SO2 here. So if we go back and look at that again, it says H2S here, and I can hear a valve clicking inside. So when I press this button, I hear a valve click, and this will change to SO2, and I can just hear a valve click inside there. So now you have target SO2 concentration 0, SO2 concentration current 0, and the background 8.2 and when it was last adjusted, and calculated SO2 background 0.0, and then you just simply hit calibrate. So when I go back out, this will switch back to H2S, and I can hear that valve click again, taking it back to the H2S mode. So when it's in H2S mode, sample passes through the internal SO2 scrubber, then through the H2S converter, and then to the reaction cell. And when it's in SO2 mode, it bypasses the SO2 scrubber and the H2S converter and just simply sends sample to the reaction cell. The Calibrate Span Coefficient here, again, you've got an H2S span coefficient and an SO2 span coefficient. So if you're sampling H2S, you'll go in here. You can edit the concentration of your cal gas. So here, the last adjustment was 78.9 ppb. I can go in here and I can type in, if I wanted to make it 78.6, I would hit enter and it would save it and to do the adjustment. Current H2S concentration matches 0.1. The span coefficient here in the last adjustment is 1.061, and they have a calculated H2S span coefficient here as well. And then there's the calibrate button right there. It says failure warning, span coefficient out of range, and that's rightly so because I have a 0.2 ppb reading here instead of the 78.9 reading that it's looking for. So it's preventing me from trying to adjust the coefficient when I hit calibrate, when there's no cal gas going through it. Going back, and I can look at the calibrate SO2 span coefficient. So when I press this H2S will change to SO2, and then what will happen is I'll hear a valve click, there it goes, and now I can put SO2 into this instrument. I can calibrate SO2, the SO2 channel. So here's the SO2 concentration. The last was 400 ppb. I can hit edit, I can make it 405 if I wanted to. Hit enter, I'll just go back. Edit SO2, the current SO2 concentration matches, minus 0.4. And there's the span coefficient, 1.008 from the last adjustment. And if I had cal gas going through, I would hit Calibrate, and it would adjust it to 400 ppb. So that's how you calibrate the 450iQ, so you can calibrate both the SO2 and the H2s coefficients on here. I can hear the valve click back and it reads H2s again. So when this analyzer was configured at Thermo, it was set to read H2s, which is what our customers want up here. And, but they have the option of also running it as an SO2 analyzer. Go back, we have a zero span schedule. Sorry, my big finger. Zero span schedule. It's disabled right now. We have next time. So this is in 24 hours. So we can set this up to do a duration. It's set for 15 minutes for zero duration. Span duration 15 minutes, and then a 5-minute purge. The averaging time of 300 seconds. See what the more menu says. Background calibration disabled, span cal disabled, and zero span ratio is 1:1. So this screen is just simply to set up a zero span schedule with your next time and your durations as well. So you can do a daily check just by having the analyzer programmed to do it by itself instead of having an external control like a data logger. Advanced cal, you can do a manual calibration. You can adjust the background. Here it's 8.4. You can hit calibrate. You can do a manual adjustment. Adjusted concentration 0.2, current H2S concentration 0.2. So you can do a manual background adjust. You can do a manual span adjust as well. Here's the H2S coefficient. You can adjust it. Hit enter. You can type in the coefficient that you want. If I wanted to make it 1.000, and then I would just hit enter, and it would accept it. I won't do that. Just, so that's 1.061, then calibrate. And you can do the same with the adjust SO2 coefficient. So when I click this, and again it's going to read SO2 here, and I'll hear a valve click to change the flow path of the gas in the analyzer. So it reads SO2, I heard the click, and now I can send SO2 gas into this instrument, and I can do a manual adjustment on the SO2. You know, I can make it 1.000, and I could hit enter. Let's just hit enter anyway and see what happens. Oh, there, it took it, 1.000. And then I can hit calibrate and it will adjust it. So I can go back. So that's the manual adjust for the H2S and the SO2 screen. So when my valve click, and there's the adjust background, adjust span coefficient, and you can also reset the backgrounds and span coefficient here. If I hit this again, it will reset my background to 0 and my span to 1. Back and back, manual calibration. There's a calibration history. So in this screen, it will show you a timestamp, the event. For example, it did a H2S auto low span. There's the result. Here's the target, 78 ppb. Units are in ppb, and the averaging time is 90. So you can have it track the history of the calibrations that it goes through each day, and you can go in and just simply take a quick look at them. You can scroll up. You can usually just scroll left and right, but there's no other columns to go left and right on. You can scroll up, and you can look at the result and the targets on here. So it's a great way to look back and look at the timestamp and the events and the results and targets of this calibration history screen. Just a manual calibration that we looked at a minute ago for manual adjust to the background, the coefficients, and then the reset. Go back, calibrate background, span coefficient, and that's just all in the calibration screen. So right here, background, span coefficient, right there. So the data screen, again, you can view data in this instrument. It has an internal data logger. If you don't have the option of an external data logger to connect to the analog outputs or the 4 to 20 or the Ethernet Modbus, this unit will record its own data. You can view the last hour, and you can see here's the CS concentration, ppb, here's the H2s concentration, SO2 concentration, PMT voltage, flash voltage. You can scroll over. Converter temp 325 Celsius, chamber pressure 567 millimeters of mercury, pump pressure millimeters mercury 348, instrument temp 29 degrees Celsius, the flow about 1 liter per minute. That's as far as it goes. Oh. And we can go back, and again, the word graph, you can touch the word graph at the tops of these columns, and it will actually graph the data that you're looking at. This is the CS concentration. It tells you what it is at the bottom. So we can go back. We can look at the PMT voltage. Get my finger on it. No, that doesn't work. Try that one. That's just the H2S concentration. Of course, it's reading zeros right now. And get back, there's the CS concentration again. View the last 24 hours. Retrieving user log. Gives you the timestamp. So this is the last 24 hours of data that we're looking at here. H2S, SO2, PMT voltage, CS concentration. And you can scroll up through the data. You can see the date. It's May 1st, 1644. So this will give you the last 24 hours of data. The other screen was giving us the last hour. So last hour, last 24 hours. And you can view data log, user defined time. You can actually set the month, day, year, hours, minutes, and start. And data logging start time, you can save it from this screen here. Advanced data setup, data logging setup. You can select your variables in here to record, and this is where they've got the yellow ones highlighted are the screens being recorded: SO2, H2S, CS, the flow, the chamber pressure, pump pressure, instrument temperature. If you want to select other ones, highlight them. You can add in H2S high concentration, gas mode, and to accept them, we would just simply hit commit changes, and now it's recording those as well, and it will add them to the columns that we looked at in the previous the 24-hour data and the last hour data. If you want to deselect them, you just touch them again and then hit commit, and it will stop recording them. Period 1 minute. That's the lowest resolution you can look at. It records every minute. Data treatment average, we can set current, max, min, so it's averaging the data. You change it to current, change it to max and min, it's set to average. You can erase the data log records, so if you want to start over and get rid of the data that's in there, start fresh, you can erase data log records. This is, are you sure you want to erase all data log records? You just simply hit that button and it would do it. Back. There's a streaming data setup. Select streaming variables. Right now it's selected for SO2, H2S, and CS concentrations, but you could also stream flow if you wanted to, chamber pressure, pump pressure, SO2 alarm, and if you wanted to, you just hit commit changes. Now it's streaming those additional ones that I just touched. If you want to deselect them, you just hit them again, commit changes, and it's stopped. It's not doing it anymore. So that's the streaming variable setup. Period, you can set a time if you wanted to. Show labels disabled. That's just a selection. So it's enabled now. Show labels enabled. Show labels disabled. and show timestamp enabled. So it's disabled now it's enabled. So that's on your streaming variables, so you can have a timestamp enabled on there. So that's the streaming data setup and the data logging setup. And then you're viewing the data last hour, 24 hours. And that's just in the data screen, right there. Settings. In the settings screen, there's quite a bit going on in here. You've got health check, instrument settings, USB drive, measurement settings, configuration, user contact information, communications, and security access levels. The health check, in here you can look at status and alarms. So if there's any alarms, if there was an alarm, there wouldn't be a green check mark. It'd be like an exclamation point with a red triangle. So you can look at concentrations. And if there was an alarm here, this would be lit up red. It would tell you what the alarm is, H2S. If you had a high alarm limit, you can set them here. The So2 bench, if it had any of the alarms, the lamp intensity, voltages, it would be highlighted in red, and it would tell you what the alarm was. It says value, low alarm, high alarm. Here's the limits, low and highs. Low alarm, high alarm, units. And H2S converter, so if there was an alarm on the H2S converter temp, this would light up red. Here's your low alarm 300, your high alarm 350 degrees Celsius. It monitors the thermocouple, tells you whether it's an open, short, board communication, power supply, voltage diagnostics. Tons of information in here to help you troubleshoot this analyzer. Flow and pressure, flow, bench pressure, pump pressure, instrument temperature, board communication, power supply, more voltage diagnostics here, low alarms, high alarms, valve and pump resets. We have a pump reset and a valve reset. Peripheral support, module temperatures, mode valve, pump, instrument errors, door communications, again diagnostics, step boards, back, and go down to more, analog I/O and digital I/O. So it actually monitors the outputs, so the voltage output, channel 1 all the way down to channel 6, and then it starts up on the current output. So it's watching the analog voltage outputs, which could be 1, 5, 10 volts DC, and then the 4 to 20 milliamp output contacts as well. So it's monitoring the status of these outputs as well. Test mode, board communications, power supply, again more voltage outputs, plus minus 15 volts. Digital I/O, solenoid monitoring, solenoid valves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 8 solenoid valves that it watches. External alarms, relay test modes, solenoid test mode, board communications, and power supplies again. Serial number, and this is great because now it's very modular, this instrument, so you can look at serial numbers of the different components. Instrument, serial number of the entire analyzer, the bench, the So2 bench, the H2S converter, analog I/O module, digital I/O module, peripheral support, flow and pressure. So if you're talking to tech support, they can actually ask you for these serial numbers and help you along with the troubleshooting process. Going back, and then there's measurement settings, averaging time, gas mode, advanced measurement settings, gas units, range mode selection, your dilution ratio and range settings. CS is set for 200 ppb, Your averaging time, 90 seconds. Gas mode is sample. And if you want to go trigger a manual 0, you'll touch this button. You can hear a valve click. If you want to go to span, touch this button. You should hear a valve click again. There it goes, and then back to sample again. Go back. Gas units are ppb. You can select ppm, percent, micrograms per cubic meter. Advanced measurement settings. Flash lamp enabled. I can turn off the flash lamp if I want to service it. If I need to change the flash lamp, I don't need to power the analyzer off. I can just simply do that. When a little bit quiet, the lamp is not ticking anymore, and I have an alarm, and it's likely because my flash lamp is, there it is, So2 bench, lamp voltage is dropped down to 0. That's why it's doing that. So I can go back. Oops, back. Measurement settings. Flash lamp, just enable the flash lamp again. Then we'll turn back on. Compensation, extended ranges, pressure calibration, optical span test. Just like on the I series, you can do an optical span test. You can go in here, and then we'll turn on the LED just inside the reaction cell. That's just underneath the photomultiplier tube, the PMT. And what it's done is it's turned off the flash lamp and turned on that little LED light, and you can see the ppb reading start to increase. So it's 30 ppb, and it will likely climb as it updates. There goes 81. So it's a great way to check the photomultiplier tube to make sure it is working. So, and just like it did on the I series on the 43i. So this is how you would turn that optical span test on, 262. So if I turn it off, it'll turn the lamp back on and turn the LED off. Pressure calibration. So we can go in here and do pressure calibrations, just like you can do a flow calibration as well. And back. Configuration. This unit has, it's an H2s analyzer, so it has a H2s converter. They call it the Molly converter. Communications board. Predictive diagnostics, analog I/O, digital I/O, and it has an So2 scrubber. So when it comes from the factory, these are highlighted because these are what are installed in this unit. User contact information. This is an interesting screen because you can put all of your information in, your business name, user ID, and as you go down, you can actually enter email addresses in here all the way up to, I think, 8, 9, 10 email addresses. So if there's a status alarm on this unit and this unit's connected to a server, it can email out an alarm report to your phone, to your iPhone. And you can be connected to this instrument all the time watching its diagnostics. So you have the ability to put in 10 different email addresses in here. The USB drive, if you're going to dump data to the USB drive, just simply plug the thumb drive into the front USB connection or the back two ones, and just simply hit download data to USB drive, and you can take it into a spreadsheet on your laptop. Security access levels, you can lock out, change levels to view only, so in case somebody gets in and accidentally calibrates the analyzer or adjusts it, and lock out the user interface. And that's the settings screen right there. Again, there's the security access, so you have these hot buttons down below right there. And if you get lost in any of the menus, you can hit the home button up here, and it will take you back to the main screen. The status check, the green check mark, is what we want to see. If we can touch that, it'll take us to this status and alarms page. And we can go in here and see if there's any alarms, concentration, bench, and it will tell us what's going on. And then the Star is simply like a favorite screen. You can program these buttons to take you into other parts of the analyzer, like a quick access, instead of having to go in through the data screen or the cal screen. You can simply go here and then hit the button you want to take you where you want to go. Date and time over here, and that's pretty much it. There's a calibration screen, data screen, and the settings screen. So all of the iQ series, very similar in platform. They'll all have the calibration data and settings button here. For the Knox is very similar. It's the same setup. You only would say NO Knox, NO2. SO2, which I'll do when I get one in a few days. I'll have another one come in. It's the same setup, only it'll say SO2 here as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to post a comment and I'll answer it shortly. Thank you.